True transformation often begins with discomfort. It does not announce itself with fireworks, nor does it ask for permission. It enters quietly, sometimes even rudely, through the back door of your life disguised as pain, confusion, or loss. It is not something we invite, yet it arrives with a purpose that only becomes clear when the storm has passed and we finally sit among the ruins, noticing which parts of us survived and which part had to fall away. Discomfort is not the enemy of growth. In fact, it is the very soil from which growth begins. Human beings are creatures of habit. We find comfort in routine, security in the familiar, and pride in stability. Yet these very patterns can also become prisons. The things we cling to for peace can, over time, dull our senses, stunt our evolution, and lock us into versions of ourselves that no longer serve the journey ahead. Discomfort arrives to interrupt that illusion. It disturbs the surface so we are forced to look deeper. It challenges the mind so the soul can speak. When everything is going smoothly, we rarely question the direction we are heading. But when life becomes turbulent, when relationships break, when health falters, when plans collapse, we begin to ask the questions that truly matter. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I meant to become? It is in these moments where certainty vanishes that something sacred begins to emerge. The ego loses its grip, the mind becomes more open, and the heart, once protected and silent, begins to whisper truths we had long silenced. Discomfort humbles us. It tears down the illusion that we are in control of everything. It strips away the layers of false identity we wear to please others or to feel important. And beneath all that, we meet ourselves raw, uncertain, and ready to receive, not because we wanted to, but because we finally have no choice. Transformation is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like waking up one morning and realizing you can no longer pretend. You can no longer ignore what you feel. You can no longer betray what you know. The discomfort of that awareness does not mean something is going wrong. It means something is trying to come alive, like a seed that breaks through the soil or a butterfly struggling out of its cocoon. Transformation is messy. It often hurts, but the pain has a direction. The discomfort has intelligence. It's not trying to break you. It's trying to reshape you. Consider the way the body strengthens. Muscles do not grow without resistance. Bones do not build without pressure. Endurance is not developed in stillness, but in the burning heat of effort. The same is true of the heart, of character, of faith. We grow when we are stretched beyond what we thought we could bear. When we stand in situations that force us to surrender our pride, admit our weaknesses, and reach for something greater than ourselves. Some people pray only when they are desperate. Others discover silence only after the noise has become unbearable. And many open sacred books only after they've been broken by life. It may feel shameful at first to need discomfort in order to turn inward, but perhaps that is the mercy in disguise, that even pain can be used as a doorway to purpose, that our lowest moments are not wasted. They are invitations urgent and sacred to come back to what we had forgotten. Discomfort strips us of our illusions and makes space for truth. And truth, when it enters, never leaves us the same. It demands action, alignment, and change. It pulls us forward, even when we are scared. But through that process, we begin to uncover a version of ourselves we never knew existed, stronger, softer, more aware, more alive. The discomfort is the beginning, not the end. It is the crack through which light enters. It is the signal that something needs to shift, that we have outgrown something, an idea, a role, a belief. And though it may feel like chaos at first, what emerges from it is clarity. What begins in pain can end in peace if we are willing to stay open, to trust the process, and to let the transformation unfold. We often come to sacred texts hoping for relief, a verse to soothe the ache, a story to lift the sorrow, a rule to fix the mess. And yet, when the Quran is truly opened, not with the eyes alone, but with the heart shattered and surrendered, it offers something more profound than quick relief. It does not always begin by giving. Sometimes it begins by asking, and those questions pierce deeper than any answer ever could. When I opened the Quran after confronting the painful truth within myself, that I had been alive, but not truly living with purpose, I expected clarity. I expected solutions, perhaps even divine sympathy. Instead, I found verses that stared back at me like mirrors, asking, "Do you think you were created without purpose? Will you not reflect? Where then are you going?" I realized then, the Quran is not a book you read to confirm what you already believe. It is a book that unearths the layers of yourself you didn't know existed. It is not there to simply pat your back and say, "You're right." It is there to stand before you like a silent teacher and say, "Look again, start here, begin within." It does not always speak softly. Sometimes it confronts you. Sometimes it shakes the ground you're standing on, because it knows that transformation cannot happen where ego and comfort still sit untouched. The more I read, the more I understood that the Quran is not a passive guide. It demands a response. It stirs you. It doesn't just inform the mind, it reforms the soul. It speaks of mercy, but also of accountability. It speaks of love, but also of truth. And above all, it reminds you that guidance is not something handed out like a gift from the outside. It is something awakened from the inside. Every question the Quran posed to me did something unexpected. It slowed me down. It made me sit in silence. It made me uncomfortable. Not because I doubted the words, but because I saw myself in them, and I didn't like what I saw. But that discomfort, just like the one that led me to open the Quran in the first place, was a doorway. And instead of rushing past it, I stepped through it, slowly, honestly, and everything changed. What I found in those pages was not just a set of commands, not just a list of do's and don'ts. I found a living conversation between the Creator and the human soul. I found that the Quran speaks not just to the events of the world, but to the conditions of the heart. It asks, not because it does not know the answer, but because it wants you to know yourself. And until you do, no answer will ever feel complete. Sometimes we ask, "Why me?" And the Quran replies, "Do people think they will be left to say we believe without being tested?" Sometimes we ask, "How do I go on?" And the Quran answers not just with reassurance, but with perspective. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. And sometimes we ask, "When will things change?" But the Quran turns the question inward. Indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. In these moments, I saw that my questions were not wrong, but they were incomplete. I had been asking from a place of fear and frustration. The Quran answered with depth, but it also refined the way I even formed the question. It taught me to ask better, to ask with humility, to ask with sincerity, to ask not from a place of demand, but from a place of seeking. So, what began with pain did not end in despair. It ended in awakening. The Quran didn't simply hand me all the answers. It handed me myself, and that, I now see, is the greatest mercy, because only when we meet ourselves honestly with all our flaws and questions can we begin to truly meet our Creator. To anyone holding pain, confusion, or even doubt in their heart, do not be afraid to bring that into the Quran. It will not turn you away, but it may ask you to stop running. It may ask you to be still. It may ask you to listen. And in doing so, it will not only answer your questions, it will transform the one who asks. That is the miracle. That is the mercy. That is the Quran.